This is a Spur On podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm Jack.
And sometimes Cooper.
As we have conversations with people in the Western culture, from NFR champions to custom boot makers, and everything in between, we are in pursuit of two things: how they got the way they are in their careers,
and their walk with Jesus.
So we hope as you listen, you're encouraged, you're entertained, you're inspired, but mostly you're spurred on. Hey guys, welcome back. I know it's been a minute, and I hope that you guys that have listened, all three of you, enjoyed the first 4 episodes that we have put out. And so all those episodes, man, we have had for some of them for almost 2 years before we finally got them prepared and ready to put out. And so, man, we're ready to start trying our best to put a podcast out once a week once you hear this one. So I hope we can continue that, but I'm not going to promise anything. So, man, and through this deal, our whole thing with the podcast is, man, just trying to sit down with people and have conversations with men and women in the Western culture that, man, also love Jesus and, man, what Jesus looks like in their life, but also what they do and how they do it. And I think a lot of times the guy that we're going to have a conversation with today, me and him have had this conversation, and we both feel the same. There's a lot of times we get to sit down with people that have made it to the NFR or competing to the NFR or had 300 mama cows or have their own boot business or saddle business or whatever it is they do. And so there's a lot of times that I think when we listen to podcasts or see things on social media that we feel like we're inferior, and because everybody else, nobody wants to hear our deal. But, man, I'm so excited. This one's man, when we started talking about the podcast, man, this was one of those guys that I've heard his story, and it has been so impactful to me, and I hope it is to you as well. And so even with talking to my friend, man, there's a lot of times we don't feel like that we're valuable because we haven't made it to the NFR. We're not chasing the rodeo dream up and down the road or selling 20 custom saddles every year. And so, man, but here's the thing I have come to realize: regardless of where we are in life, regardless of where we are in our walk with Jesus, there is always somebody ahead of us, but there's always somebody behind us. There's always somebody that looks at our life and says, man, I just wish I could have that. I wish I could desire that. And so, man, this is going to be a little bit different perspective. The guy that we're going to have a conversation with today, and then I'm not going to tell his story, but, man, really the perspective I hope he can bring as far as cultural relevance is the fact that, man, he has a little boy and a little girl, and his little boy desired to start rodeoing, and they really didn't know where to start. And so, man, if that's where you are, then I hope you can hear what he has to say. But I would also say this too, and I was thinking about this before I introduce him, but I think a lot of times in life we have friends, and we call people friends, and we have relationships, and we do life with people. But I would be doing a complete big disservice if I was to leave this out. But I think mine and Cheston's friendship, I don't know how long it's been several years, but I would be lying and trying to be deceptive if I was to act like it hadn't always been just perfect. It's been rocky at times, and I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful to be sitting at our table right now with Cheston Watkins, because it is there's a lot of things that have happened that could have prevented this, but I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that, man, God has just had his hand over both of us and our families, and so I'm so thankful to get to sit down and have a conversation with Cheston Watkins for a little bit. So, man, I hope y'all enjoy it. So I'm just going to shut up, and so Cheston is a dad, and he has a 10-year-old little boy that rodeos and that likes to ride steers and bucking horses, and also has started roping and doing all the play day things at junior high rodeos and barrels and poles and all that. But I know this, it hasn't been that long ago that he didn't know where to start or where to go or what to do. And so I'm just going to let Cheston tell you where they kind of started and what that looked like. When Drake come to you and said, hey, Daddy, I think I want a rodeo, or what did that look like? Is it something he saw, or did y'all go to a rodeo and he was like, hey, I want some of that, or how'd that start?
Man, it really, I just want to say thank y'all for having me on and letting me spend a little time with y'all, but it really all started about a year from now. It was probably August of 2018. Me and Emily was in between churches, and we had stopped by Cedar Creek Cowboy Church, and it was I don't remember the date, but it was Shelby County Extreme Bulls. And you may remember the date. But you asked me did I want to go when you did a devotion behind the buck and shoots. I'll never forget it, and he talks about it to today. And me and Drake, me and you went back there, and you did a devotion, and you picked him up, put him over the panel, and he said something about I'll ride that one. And I mean, he was 4 years old, and something like that. So that was like 2018. So we rocked on for, man, right at a year, probably like I said, August of 2019. And we started running with the Alabama Little Britches and riding sheep. That's what got us started. And then we was going over to Franklin, Georgia, riding with the West Georgia Rodeo Association. And then wanted to ride bucking horses. Never really cared much about the bulls, but wanted to ride bucking horses. And so we went to Boys of the South out of Wetumpka. And it was like a little, I guess, halftime show of like a PCA rodeo or something like that. And so he got to ride with all the bigger guys and some PCA rodeos and really liked it. And we just was doing that. I mean, traveling, within 80, 100 miles of Sylacauga, and he was loving it and enjoying it. But then everybody was like, hey, if you get him on the other end of the arena, his balance, all that'll come in. So then we bought a little pony and started running poles and goats and barrels and flags, all that. And that's got us to the junior rodeo world. And 3 horses later and 2 trailers,
A couple of fortunes.
Yeah.
So what did as far as him starting and I know, but I know everybody else doesn't know. So up until he was, you said 6 years ago. So Drake was 4, and he was, best I can remember, he was playing basketball and stuff like that, right? I mean, just what every little boy does, right? And I think that's the biggest thing too, because I mean, there again, even for me, me and Jack were talking about this today. We had a couple horses growing up that I rode every once in a while, but I never even really started roping until after I got out of high school and started running with my buddies that were roping already. And so, like for me, I always thought that those kids that got to junior rodeo and even just mutton bust, I always thought, well, they must have grew up with a rodeo family, right? You know what I mean? And so, but y'all didn't. Y'all didn't come from that. No. You had no whatsoever. Yeah. I don't know if you remember this. I was thinking about this the other day, and I can tell you where we were standing, but we were standing, y'all had been coming to church there for a little bit, and me and you were talking about something. You're like, I remember you saying this, and I don't know where this falls into the timeline, but I was like, hey man, what is it that man you feel God calling you to do here? And you're like, oh, I don't know, but it ain't rodeo, because I don't know nothing about out there. I can help crank a tractor, but besides that, I'm out, so it's not like y'all had any experience whatsoever.
Had no clue. I mean, literally coming to it with a clean slate. There was no background, my wife didn't rodeo. She played softball, played football, didn't even own a horse.
She go-tied that one time.
She did. That's a funny story. Broke all 4 of his legs.
I don't know if we can tell that story on here.
Yeah, we may hold down for another day. But yes, that was her extent of rodeo horse, goat tying that one goat. And mine was, going to watch every now and then. But other than that, it was nothing to do like the Western culture, but never lived it, never was in it. And we dove head first in it, and have some very good friends that I can call today that, is in Drake's corner. I'm his sponsor, get him up down the road. It's a good group of people that's really just helped us along and showed us the way. And the whole 9 yards, from putting a saddle on the horse. I know that sounds silly, and a lot of people, the whole 9 yards. He did not come from that background. He got us all 3 into this.
Well, you should thank him when you get home.
No doubt.
Yeah. No, but and I do think, and I hope people hear that like there is a way. Like there is a way. It doesn't have to look like what I always thought it looked like, right? It doesn't have to look. There is an avenue for people to get involved, and so, man, even in that. So what did it? So you said the first thing. I'm sure y'all went and got on some sheep at a. Did y'all go get on? Did he get on a sheep at like a amateur rodeo or something?
No, we went to the Alabama Little Britches and West Georgia and Franklin, Georgia.
Yeah.
And I don't guess he's ever really. I mean, a couple, but he was going to those two associations, and he would get on one every blue moon and at like a sanctioned rodeo. But we was going just to the two junior rodeos, the Alabama Little Britches and the one in West Georgia, Franklin, Georgia. But it was just a kid youth rodeo. And he didn't start riding in front of like a sanctioned rodeo till he did Boys of the South, riding the little mini buckers, little ponies.
Yeah, and I think that, man, especially living where we live, and it's, I mean, I guess if you think about it, you're like, well, not really there, but really living in central Alabama, I mean, there is a ton of avenues. We have a little junior rodeo deal at the church that runs a 5 or 6 series deal that kids come and start, and then there's the Alabama Junior High, and then there's high school, and then there's Little Britches, and then, man, there's 2 or 3. There's a guy down south that started doing just a kid roping, a 15 and under team roping, and so and then there's 2 or 3 different associations that I see advertising on Facebook all the time for kids that that exactly like this, like you don't know where to start, just come. And I would say this: if you're out there and listening to this for whatever reason, you're one of those 3, and your kid does desire to start rodeo in some way, form, or fashion, I would say this: I think the entry into it, you would be met with open arms. Like I have yet, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's people out there that are just butts, but I've yet to run into many people that would just turn you away and be like, no, because at the end of the day, they might turn me or you away, but nobody's hard. It's hard to tell a kid, no, you can't ride this horse, or you know what I mean, or yeah, enter up and you can ride one of ours. And so I would encourage people. I mean, just reach out. Just go show up one day and talk to somebody. And
not every one of them's got open arms and willing to help and willing to teach. And that's what I like about the Western world. I mean, you got kids that's 1 or 2 points out from taking the saddle from your kid or whatever, and the daddy is back here tying your son's breakaway rope on. And it's like, you stop and look at it, and you're like, hey, my son's 3 points behind your kid. If he does halfway decent right here, my son's just to jump yours, but here you are helping my son to have the best chance that he has to catch or do what,
right.
It just blows my mind how open arms they really are.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. And even helping pushing calves and steers and whatever it is, helping a horse getting out of there or whatever it is, man, very welcoming to most people that desire that. I would say this: I think there's a lot of kids out there, and it is amazing even that Drake stayed hooked, because there are a lot of kids out there that they think they want it until they hit the ground. And I even think about Drake. I was thinking about him the other day. I don't know why this thought. Oh, I know what it was. I was listening to Dale's podcast, and somebody said something about wearing a helmet. I remember that time Drake come to church and showed me that scar he had on his cheek where a steer stepped through his helmet and cut his face, and I'm like, that's when most kids would have been out. I'm done. And
we was at the Alabama Junior Rodeo, and literally come out about $2 in, he come off, and the steer stepped through his helmet and cut his ear in half. I mean, we was riding in, or I say we, look, I'm riding. He was riding in Wilsonville and broke his arm on Friday night and rode Saturday morning, and act like there was nothing wrong, then turned around and rode Saturday night. And that's how Emily knew it was broke, is when he come out. We was talking about tasers earlier. It looked like you shot him with a taser. He locked up, and it was because of his forearm, the way he rode on his rigging. But he broke his bone. I broke his forearm. He's had a front tooth knocked out. And so that's how we really, I mean, it was all fun and games getting to run around the living room with spurs and chaps and vest on. And then he got his feet held to the fire. And, man, he's wanted it since day one. I mean,
It does take something that most people don't have to get on back of a bull or a horse.
I totally agree. I have no desire.
On that side of the pen, I will say roping's a whole different game.
I totally agree.
Well, it depends what you're riding too. I've seen as many bucking horses come out of their open box as I have the bucking chutes. But anyway, no, that's awesome. So what did that look like? I mean, there again, we know what it looks like to be a soccer mom or a baseball dad or football dad. But what does that look like for you? I mean, as a dad, how do you? Or let me just say this: what would you? I mean, the woman out there that their kid desires to rodeo. What advice would you give them to help their kid get started?
On
the spot,
dead on it. Man, just go. You got to start slow. You got to start somewhere, and I mean, not everybody's gonna start at the top, obviously, but man, just go ask, go talk. And when we talked about it just a minute ago, there's a lot of good people that's willing to help, willing to show you, willing to help you out. I mean,
so and I know this, and so I really don't know how to introduce all of this and bring it up, but I would say this. I mean,
Daddy hit on it just a second ago, but what made you feel called to start the his brand rodeo at the church?
Matt, just being on the outside looking in, and then getting on the inside. I've never wanted to leave somebody out. So, like I said, I've been fortunate as a family. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of good people in Drake's corner. And not just putting him on good horses. I mean, just being in his corner, helping him out when he is down. I mean, just the whole. I mean, helping change tires at a junior rodeo when you had a blowout. I mean, so it takes all the pieces of the puzzle. But but I know how it feels to be the new guy, the new kid on the block, trying to get involved in it. And I fought it, and God's like, hey, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. And I've y'all fixing to hear, I've run from him for a long time, and it was just easier to turn around and say, hey, God, here I am. Use me. I don't like talking, obviously. I don't like being in front of everybody, but I feel like this is the way God could use me and put me in some kids' life to help them out. And
well, he's fixing to use you to reach the four people that listen to this podcast. So anyway, no, I do think as we have the opportunity to have conversations with a lot of different people, there's a lot of things that bring value, and there's a lot of things that I think are great about everybody's story. And me and Cheston, we were talking about this, and I think it's huge just thus far. If you've listened to the other four and you're listening to this one, bless your heart. But just listen to Kyle's story. It was cool to me to listen and hear Kyle talk about how he had to hitchhike a horse and a trailer across 3 or 4 states, and how he didn't have a truck or a vehicle whatsoever in college. And it was cool to me listening to Tyler's interview, just listening to how impactful his dad was in his life. And man, I love Jason Taylor. And so, man, I forgot. I went back and listened to it after we put it out there, and I forgot when he told the story about his eyeball falling out. And I know that's goofy and crazy, but I'm like, man, that's pretty good. And then, man, to listen to Dale's episode and think about a man that walks around and sees other grown men with a picture of his face, but yet has his pride in perspective and constantly tries to deal with it and address it. And so all those things are impactful to me, and they mean a lot, just like when I listen to other podcasts, and I take away something from all of them. But I hope really that if you don't have a kid that's rodeoing, but I hope that, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's going to be somebody that listens to this, and you might be at the end of your rope. And so I hope as we talk about Cheston's story and the fact of how, and even by the grace that he's sitting at our dining room table recording this podcast right now, and I hope you can find hope. I do. I hope there's parents out there that want their kids to start rodeoing, or their kids are wanting to start rodeoing. And so, man, you can realize as you listen to Cheston talk that, man, there's a way if you didn't grow up in it, if you weren't raised in it. And really, even honestly, and we probably could have spent a whole podcast on this trying to figure out how you afford it a lot of times to get your kids up and down the road. But at the end of the day, all that's irrelevant. And I hope that there is somebody that listens to this that is broken, that is scared, that doesn't know what else to do, that man, you can find faith and hope in where my friend is and how he got there. And so, man, I just, what about, let's just start at the beginning. And that's where we've done with everybody else, Justin, is, going back to childhood. So what did it look like for you as a kid growing up? I mean, and we talked about you didn't grow up rodeoing, so you grew up playing ball, I know. But let's just start there and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I started out as a 8-9 years old playing baseball. And as you're fixing to hear, there wasn't a whole lot of gospel at the house. And there was two guys that was very impactful in my life. That was, both of them was like my first year coach was a man by the name of John Allen and a man by the name of Spud Sherbert. And they really, really, really hold a big candle to where my faith is today. And man, I grew up in what my terminology of a loving home was mom and daddy fighting. Dad worked all the time. I don't really remember looking up in the stands and seeing him on every blue moon. So if he ever did get to make it, it was a big deal. You know what I mean? It was always a real rare for him to ever be there, just because he worked all the time. But then when he was at home, it was hell. It was rough. And I mean, as far as the fighting and the seeing stuff at a very young age that I didn't have no choice to see. And looking back now, it's the reason I am who I am, and the reason I'm the way I am is I seen a lot of stuff that a lot of grown men should have to see. And like I said, those two men I told you about, John Allen and Spud Sherbert, really, not just me, I mean the whole baseball team, they would pour the gospel in and rocked on a little bit. Fathered, Spud Sherbert was more Fayetteville based, and I think John Allen and them had moved maybe towards Vincent, back over that way. So, but Spud was embedded in Fayetteville, and so he stayed in the middle of football, baseball, the whole 9 yards. So then, but that's where I heard the gospel, was through a volunteer coach, and that's why, man, I've coached Drake at every level. I don't know nothing about basketball, don't know a whole lot about baseball, don't know much about football, really. I was just a little 1A kid that was trying to make it, trying to do it, and but that's where I heard the gospel. And if there's a kid that I hope I can just be the light that Spud Sherbert and John Allen was to me when I was that age.
And that's crazy to me too, because like me and you talked about before, man, both of those men, I think so many times in life we don't feel like we have an impact, and there again, I can't thank John anymore because he's gone on to be with Jesus. But every time I run into Spud, I tell him how much I love him, because there again, our family life and our home life didn't look the same, but both of those men poured into me, and they didn't have to. No. Like they didn't. They, be honest with you, Spud coached me in my senior year of baseball, and so I got the opportunity to be around him. But it was, if I'm honest, it's both of those guys poured into me off the field. Not, I didn't ever play for John, but so it's crazy to me how impactful, not just you, yes, but both of those men were. And so what that does is it speaks to me in this is like those guys, that they weren't trying to personify to you or to me. It's just who they were. Exactly. It's just who they were. So you're playing baseball. So was that your deal? I mean, like, were you as a kid, But did you? I mean, I don't know, so I don't want to put words in your mouth. But did you have aspirations and the dreams? Did you want to play college football, baseball, and eventually professional football and baseball? Is that what you? I mean, as every little kid.
Yeah, as every little kid, that was my dream to play but football. And like I said, that was my dream. That was my goal. That was my wants, is to play football and baseball. And but going back to that, I mean, them two guys they had kids on the team. They're just like the rest of us. They wanted to be there with their kids. They didn't want to, but that's who they were, man. And you talk about them around Fayetteville now. Both of those names get brought up every time. Yeah, I wanted to go somewhere playing football, and I mean, coming from a little 1A high school here in Fayetteville, Alabama. I mean, it was. I mean, we weren't that good. We weren't that.
Like his senior year, either 0-10 or 10-0.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It's really Bobby's subject.
Yeah, but his years were better than mine.
Yeah, we was a little bit better than.
Yeah, but at least they made the playoffs. So Jack makes fun of me because every time they ask me to come speak at the school, they're like, I tell that joke because it's so real. Man, that was God Almighty, that was there was way more than growing pains. Man, I think it was the fourth year that Fayetteville had a football program, and I remember being there in summer workouts, and man, they was teaching some 10th and 11th graders how to get in a three-point stance, and I went home. I told my dad, I said, this is going to be a long year. This is going to be a long year. But anyway, so, man, growing up, just that's who you want. I mean, just a normal American red-blooded kid. So, and there again, I know there's a lot there. And there again, I don't want anybody to listen to this and feel like and hear what you just said, talking about your dad. I realize even talking to my stepdad, you know, he was raised by a single mother, and he talked about how his mom never came to any of his games. And at first when he would tell me that, I mean, I would be like, my God, because, I mean, at the end of the day, unless I just have to, I'm not going to miss it. Like, no. I'll miss a practice, but I'm not going to miss a game. And I've gone to a lot of games knowing that my kids weren't going to play. Well, I knew they weren't going to play. They wasn't going to get at bat. They wasn't going to go in to play one down of football, but I was going to be there. So if they turned around and looked, they knew Daddy was going to be there. So my dad would tell me that, and I'd be like, and so I also, my stepdad telling me that, you know, his mom never made it. I also realized there was a time in her life where she was a single mama working in a cotton gin, trying to support 4 kids and herself. And so I get that. But I mean, do you think that's kind of where you were as far as home life, or did it look a little different?
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's I've never really just sat down and asked him, you know, why, or what was the deal behind it. But it was I remember thinking the president walked up, and it was just my dad. And I never want Drake or Sadie to have to experience that. I mean, I don't want it to be a rare occurrence because they look up in the stands and see me. And I just hang my hat on that. Like I said, I may miss a practice, but as far as missing a ball game, whether they play or not, but we can fast forward just a little bit. And so I went I was 8, 10, 12 years old right in there. So then by the time I started playing junior high ball, I was done with baseball, and I had to hit it super far or hit it out because I wasn't fast enough to make it hit dead center field and make it to first base. So then I was too slow to play baseball. So then we went to, like I said, fast forward a little bit, go to junior high right in there, and it was just strictly football and living 2 lives. That's probably where it started.
Did you say junior high?
Yeah, probably 8th grade. Yeah, right in there. 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, right in there. I guess that's
so. So what do you mean 2 lives?
Oh man, that's where, like I said, I'm still trying to get over all the negative at home. If I was in love with material stuff. That was one way my dad could, being 13, 14 years old, as long as he was giving me material stuff, knock on wood, I've never wrecked a vehicle. But the year I graduated, I had been through 7 or 8 trucks, 2 bass boats, 3 or 4 four-wheelers. But that's how he was making it up, was through material stuff. So that's how I was backing up just a little bit. I started living a double life. I could hang out with the right crowd, and everybody thought I was happy-go-lucky, but I was also living with the broken, screwed-up guy that really didn't know if he was going or coming, or really didn't know the trying to think of the word I'm looking for. Really didn't know what to do, but I wanted to be the cool kid. I'm playing junior high football. I mean, my 8th grade year, I was playing. I mean, the first year Fat won the playoffs, I was on the starting kickoff team, which I know it's no big deal, but as a 7th grader.
No, it was because of your speed. That's what it was.
Oh, no doubt. That was totally it. But I mean, just trying to be that guy. And it was, it all started snowballing right in there about 8th, 9th grade.
But before we get too far, I do want to say this, because at the end of the day, and it took me a long, and there again, maybe one day soon, man, I'll just do a podcast just for myself and kind of tell my story as far as where I came from. But I grew up, my mom and dad got divorced when I was at a very early age, and so I grew up with a stepdad that treated me like his own son, and then my biological dad was in my life too, and so, but at the same time, that there's both of them did things that I try to mimic, and both of them did things and that I try to not do. And so I said that to say this: if you're a dad out there, I need you to hear this. You're gonna leave. Well, number one, you have scars from your dad. We all do. Every single one of us have scars that our dad left in us, intentionally or unintentionally. And so even in the effort to try not to, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, if Jack and Cooper were 100% honest, there's been some things in the last 12 years and 16 years that they would say, well, I'll never do what Daddy did. I'll never talk to my kid that way. I'll never treat my kid that way. I'll never do that. And I hate that about myself. But there again, man, that's the difference in our flesh and our spirit. But anyway, so if you're out there, I would just encourage you, if you are a dad, man, to regardless of your shortcomings, and there again, I'm not trying to make excuses, but I also know as a dad, and listen to you, I think a lot of times, man, I would just about be willing to bet anything that your dad knew that he was coming up short by not being there, but the best he knew how to do was replace that by buying you stuff. Yeah, and that's easy to look at and be like, oh, well, he's so wrong for that. Yeah, but and I'm not saying it's right. No, I'm just saying, like, to the best of his ability, that's all he knew to make it right. And so, and I even look at my stepdad. His dad died when he was like 8 or 9 months old, and so he went through a couple of stepfathers, and so he really didn't have an example. He didn't know what it was like to be a daddy. Nobody ever said a deal whether to be like this or not be like that, and so he did the best he could in a lot of ways, and in some ways he came up short, and that's okay too. But I just want to encourage you, if you're a dad out there listening, just know, man, regardless of how hard you tried, you're going to leave some scars in your kids. But man, I don't think the men in this country, or in the world really, understand how important they are in the lives of their families, and I know we're going to get to that in a minute. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. So junior high, spoiled kid, just a little punk brat that was really fast.
No doubt. And coming from a little 1A school, and I ain't trying to be cocky or arrogant. I wasn't fast, but I'd hit you between the eyes. And like I said, 4A, Fayetteville, Alabama, 1A high school, I was pretty legit. I was like, I could keep you contained in a box. I tried to knock your helmet off, but so I mean, I didn't. So rock and roll, and like I said, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out who I am. And the older I get, the uglier it's getting. I mean, it's like I said, it's snowballing fast because guys on the street, I just want to be a normal kid that ain't broken at home, that ain't got all these taking all this from my home life into school, and then at 13, 14 years old trying to be, you know, the kid. And man, I'm as a grown man, you'll break. And here I am trying to carry it in the schoolhouse, so I've got a lot of anger issues. So then it don't help. I mean, me and my mom and dad got talking about this maybe last year. At 13 years old, well, no, about 14 years old, I get caught with a can of dip, and we just kind of laugh it off. There was no repercussions. Man, anything could happen. I mean, as long as I had grades, didn't really matter. I mean, nothing really mattered. As long as I could pull up to Big Daddy's or Rick's in Fayetteville, and somebody could tell me my stats. I was on cloud nine. I didn't care about the rest of it, but my household showed that too. I wasn't held accountable for nothing. And like I said, I'm not saying this bashing parents by no means, but at 14 years old, right in there, I can't let Drake away with murder at 14 and not be no repercussions on anything he does. And I've got a couple different coaches, not the two we've been talking about, but I've got a couple different coaches and walking in the hallways asking me for dip. What is that doing? Just putting wind in my sails. I mean, now I am him. I mean, we're watching film and they're asking me, hey, you got a can of snuff on you? So, man, so now we move into probably 10th or 11th grade, and it's, like I said, I mean, it's still snowballing. I've got anger issues. I've got a lot of issues, really, but don't really know how to point them. But football was my escape card. That was the way I can be a normal kid. I could let all my anger out. And this is another one of those stories that ain't bragging, but my junior year, never forget it. We was playing TC at Fayetteville, and if I ain't mistaken, it was Halloween night. And man, I'd stop by the gas station, and I tried to look it up because I was wanting to tell Jack about it. But if I ain't mistaken, it was a energy drink called a 180. They were in a small, slim can, like a Red Bull, like a Red Bull, but it was called a 180. And I remember Big Daddy's having them, and I could go in there and buy one of those and get me 3 yellow jackets.
God, dog, that's one of your heart didn't explode.
Man, that night.
What's a yellow jacket?
It's some kind of energy pill. Yeah.
It's just a lot. It's a lot.
But like the pack tells you take one or, something like that. And here I am and then going out there and it being an extreme on your body. I mean, it couldn't have been good. But the night that night in Fayetteville, I got done with the game, probably had the best game of my life. And don't go try this, Jack. I promise you. Probably the best game of my life. When I made it to the sideline, the one time that my dad really sticks out is he was pulling my shoulder pads off because I had collapsed and was throwing up to no end. Like I said, I didn't really get a whole lot of people involved because I knew what I'd done. I couldn't go get the medic. I couldn't go flag nobody down because I knew. And like I said, it wasn't like I was popping pills.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's, my body had I don't know what it was doing, but it wasn't liking what it had done to it. So then that's another one of those stories. No repercussion, no big deal. Just take your shoulder pads off and tell them a white lie and go on about it. And tell them you're dehydrated. And I mean, like I said, and that goes back to that double lie. I mean, I was running with the day crowd and I was running with the night crowd. And then smoking before school. That was every 16, 17, I guess that's my junior and senior year. I mean, we were smoking before school every morning. And I mean, just a lost kid that was just one step ahead of, I'm going to say the law, but just one step ahead. And at the end of the day, look, I mean, all I wanted was just some attention, I guess. And just try to be that kid.
Well, I think we all fight that battle. I mean, I know I did. I mean, same thing in school, you know. I mean, like I said, our home lives didn't look the same, but the ability to try to be a chameleon did. Because, you know, I mean, I tell everybody all the time for years, they would have never known that I knew anything about Jesus unless they drove by the parking lot of whatever Baptist church they were going to between 10 and 12 that day and saw my truck sitting there. But, you know, what the example and everything else you looked at my life for after that, besides those 2 hours and there again maybe a 45-minute or hour on Wednesday nights, you know, there was nothing there. But and I thought about that a lot because I look at my boys and I don't desire that for them. I want them to know who they are. And I be honestly, if I'm looking at myself as a younger me, I was right there with you in the aspect of I didn't really understand who I was. Like I knew what I liked to do, but I've said this before, like so many times we let the things that we like to do become who we are. And if we're going to have a biblical worldview, that's not what the Bible says. That's not what the Bible says. But there's that desire before we truly know Jesus. There's that desire to try to figure it out, and we're regardless of what it is, you know, whether it's high school football accolades or whatever girl we think can get in the truck with us, you know, or whatever job we can get or whatever trophy or trinket we can win. We let that become and decide who we are. And at the end of the day, that's not what the word says. So,
right. And that was always as long as I stayed one step ahead of the law, I didn't have to worry about who Jesus was. And I was one of those. Yeah, he's riding with me, but he's in the back seat. Probably not even the back seat because I had to use the back seat after a while. He's in probably in the bed of the truck. And but when I got in hot water, it's like, hey Jesus, if you help me at this one time, I got you. I remember using that, and I was as far from church could get. Hey, God, you get me out of this one time. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Walking in Walmart here in town and just being two cool kids. We're going to light one up, walk across the parking lot. I'm 7 foot tall and bulletproof. Ain't nobody in this town going to mess with me. And I can take you and put you back in the footsteps on the, not on the grocery and on the other end. I was one parking spot away from the handicap. I can go put you back in the foot tracks. Man, buddy handed it to me, and I took the last straw off of it. And when I dropped it and exhaled, I looked up, and there stood the Sylacauga police officer coming out of Walmart. And, I mean, it's just the biggest cloud you've ever seen. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I was like, God, if you let him walk by me, I'm done with it. Well, I went cold turkey on that one. But there's three other things really, that it was way harder to go cold turkey on than a little bit of dope.
Man, golly, I'm so thankful for grace because I can think so many times where I've made them deals with him. Like, hey, if you'll get me out of this. And there again,
there's a wretched kid that didn't bring him nothing. It was that heck bent and determined to, son, I've got you this far. As long as, you got me in the back seat, but
and there again, if I'm going to believe what the word says, it says that he is all knowing. And so he knew that I was lying to him when I said, hey, this is the last time. This is the last freaking time, I promise. And, but it wasn't. It wasn't for me. You know what I mean?
That wasn't for me either.
So, man, what you said that was your junior year?
Yeah,
you walked out of Walmart somewhere in there?
Yeah, junior. Somewhere right there. I mean, like I said, I don't remember the dates, hard dates. But, it was right in there. And then, like I said, we really got the train rolling. It is snowballing. Come out of high school, senior year was about the same. Man, let's get real. Come out of football practice one day. There's a mother of a kid that I played football with said something on the sly. So at 17 years old, I wasn't 18, 16, 17 years old. I guess the senior year would be 17 with a Jack. 17 years old, I'm going to call you out. Put your money where your mouth is. So now we're really, I mean, I'm messing around with a dude I play football with's mama. So that went on my whole senior year. Get out of it. So, I mean, like I said, now we're really cooking in peanut oil. You know what I mean? And I ain't say that cocky and arrogant or boasting about nothing. It was just a lost kid that was just living it.
But at the same time, though, like I hear you. Like you man, you just, whatever it is, whoever, you get attention from wherever. But at the same time, man, if there's not a conscious effort to follow Jesus, then it as the world would see it, man, as a 17-year-old kid, man, you were rocking. You know what I mean? Like, really, I mean, like, what dream? I mean, that's how many shirts have that acronym? You know what I mean? Or how many kids younger than that have a shirt on that says "I love hot malt"? You know what I mean? And so, like, if we're just gonna be real, let's be real. And so, like, I mean,
But I wasn't wearing the shirt. You know, I was getting to live it. I was living it.
No, they were made the shirt based off of your life, and so, even in that. But at the same time, since we went to the same high school, man, it doesn't take much to shine there. And I don't know that as a derogatory thing, but I mean, I don't know how many D1 athletes Fayetteville's turned out over the last years, but I bet you can count them on one hand if you were missing two fingers. And it was, so, I mean, there again, if you block, tackle, and could run and throw, then you were good. And
no doubt.
And the community thought you were good,
yes.
right? And so, because I got to experience that as well to a little bit, and I wasn't that good, but man, there again, just having a little bit of knowledge, and for me, it was just reckless abandonment. It wasn't necessarily talent or skill. It was just I didn't care. And so, man, when you got those people patting you on the back, telling you how good you are, and you got what you just described going on,
I was on top of the world.
That's right. I mean, you're the man.
Yes.
You're the man.
And no knock to him, but he kept my wind in my sails. Was Eddie Taunton. Mr. Taunton, his wife was the lunchroom lady. All the years I was there. Anyway, every Saturday morning or Sunday when I seen him at Big Daddy's, Cheston, you did this, you did that. He would tell me my stats from one end to the other. Didn't make the daily home, which I never had to go look at the daily home. If I ever run into Mr. Taunton, he could tell me my stats. I mean, better than the coach could. So, rock and roll from there. I mean, it's just we're just living wild and reckless. Go through my early 18, 19. I'm working. I've been working since I turned 16 in February. I started working at Bluebell in March of like when I turned 16, and so I just started working, and out of high school it was partying, driving the hell train, I guess, because it was that's where I was headed. Still ain't been held accountable for nothing. Really ain't got to be held accountable for nothing. I'm doing my own thing. Just a funny backstory. Just back up just a wee bit. Dating a girl in high school, which was good friends with a girl, which was good friends with a girl, which is now my wife today. We would all three go and hang out. I'm gonna get to that story in just a second, but we would all three triple date, and
trying to understand it.
Yeah, I went to high school with a girl. Her girlfriend went to the same school, and then that girl and Emily was good friends. So we'd all three go sit around a bonfire together, all six of us. And I'll get to that story in just a wee bit, but it was it's funny how God this whole time is still got his hand in the middle of it, but I just won't let him. I won't let him shine yet. Like I said, I'm 18 years old. I don't need a man, a creator, showing me what to do. I got it.
Before we move on, how did it, when you came out of high school, I know football was you said people were telling you your stats at Big Daddy, so like, I know it was a big thing for you. How did it affect you when you couldn't do that anymore?
Oh, it killed me. Like I said, I mean, and going from being that guy to going to stand on the sidelines, I mean, it takes all you win out of yourselves. And I think it was another another nudge to push. You know, because I was down. Now I'm looking for that comfort now, and I can't get it because I'm done with football. So I think that was another one of those, another stoke to the fire or whatever you want to word that to. Cause I can't play Friday nights. So the where I was comfortable at now is took from me. So now it's really getting reckless. It's really getting interesting.
Doing everything you can and not think about it.
Exactly. And
So what about this? Real quick, go ahead.
Come on.
Go ahead. Oh, I thought so. Is home still look the same?
Yes.
At this point, nothing's changed. At home.
Nothing. Home is still the same. It's still reckless and just wide open. And the more time I can stay away from there, the more I can be a normal kid. So move on. I'm out of high school. I don't have no woman holding me down. I'm running with 4 or 5 different drinking crowds, and I work, go to the gym, and party, and so in this mix, I am, like I said, I loved alcohol and women, and it didn't have to be in that order. So we're rocking and rolling, and I mean, I'm at Bluebell at 18, 19 years old, just out of high school. And I'm one of these, don't call me out, I'm going to call you bluff. So then one thing leads to another. And I just couldn't go find somebody to date. I had to start messing around with some married women. And it's all wild. Take a single woman, and that's one thing, but you take one that's married. But I was living off the adrenaline rush. So then, like I said, I quit smoking weed and all that. So now I guess that was my high. That was my football high. Was messing with a married, that wedding man did not mean a thing to me. So rock on a little while there, and my mom and dad had caught wind of it. And that was, me and my dad sat down one night. He said, son, he said, you do realize what happened if I caught a man come out of our house? He's like, you know what's supposed to happen to you. And I don't remember the words I told him, but I remember laughing about it. I mean, that was my sport. That was my getaway card. And so then that goes, I mean, that was a whole different high. And I mean, that's still that missing piece of puzzle that I'm looking for. That, I mean, I'm just a lost soul trying to find it. And I'm looking in all the wrong directions. To go to a party, several of them out there, and go through my DUI check right here. And I mean, I was literally I could see the street light come around the curve, and we was in the car together. I told us to just hold tight. Anyway, the state trooper said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to make it to that street light. I'm going home. And he said, well, you know what this is, a DUI checkpoint. You know that, right? And here we go. Thank God. I was like, man, if you just let me make it to that street light, I'm going home. And goes back to using God to get me out of something. But I mean, that time I did turn left and go into the house and call it a night. But that was one of those where God got me out of it.
Get out of jail free card.
Yes, God got me out of it, but I still ain't put him first. I still got the get out of jail free card in the back of my wallet, and he's here. He's just following in the car behind me. And you would think it would have woke me up enough to
Gently tapping on your shoulder, just asking you to.
Hey, just turn around.
In.
Yes. All you got to do is turn around. We ain't worried about what you done. Just turn around. And still a lost kid, just trying to find it. and just live it. Then that goes back to that double life. I mean, I knew who to hang out with during the daylight to make you think everything was perfect, happy-go-lucky. But the whole time I'm trying to line something up for this evening, a party to go to or a lady to go hang out with.
So did that? I mean, that just continues. I mean, just the. I mean, was it always just the married woman thing? I mean, was there, or were you an equal opportunity player?
Oh, man, it didn't matter. Just the married women was it. But no, it didn't matter. I was, like I said, I was single and wide open, so it didn't.
So the walking through the checkpoint there, I mean, did that slow you down any? Or just for the night?
Just slowed me down that evening, that night. Just because it was 2:30 in the morning, and I don't know what they were doing in Fayetteville, Alabama.
Yeah, you're done anyway.
Yeah, it was a done deal. We was headed to the house. But man, that rock and rolled for the longest. Just that lost. I mean, like I said, I just go back to that lost soul, just trying to figure out what the lost piece of puzzle was.
Well, man, it's amazing to me because, and I think, well, I hope we all don't, but man, we're all born with a hole, and man, some of us it takes longer to fill that hole. You know, I mean, until you realize and experience what Jesus can do, and you let Him fill that hole. It's amazing, man, what you will try, and even I can't remember who said it, but whoever, I don't think it was Einstein. I don't remember who said it, but man, when you continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, but you always end up in the same spot. But so you mid-20s now, just man working,
Just
living at home, so there's no bills except for whatever you want to spend, whether you want to smoke it or drink it or chase it, and so man, we're just partying. We're the life of the party.
in the center of the party, living it up. I mean, I have no bill. I mean, if I bought a truck, it was because that was the only bill I had. You know what I mean? It was something I had to buy to make me have a bill. I was still living at home, enjoying it. But that goes. But if I stayed out long enough, hopefully he would get off work and he would. You know what I mean? If I stayed in the streets long enough, hopefully they would have theirs out of the way and they'd be in bed. I can just slip in, go to bed,
Right.
and just be out of the way and just stay out of sight, out of mind, but not have all their grown up responsibilities as far as the bills, and
Right.
because I was as far from needing to live by myself as it got. But so yeah, we're rocking and rolling. I mean, I'm in the gym 4 or 5 days a week, and if I couldn't lose it in the gym, I was finding it in a bottle. So going back to that circle I told you about in high school, well, I'd always told a girl, I was like, hey, if Emily comes up single, let me know. And she's like, hey, I'm not breaking that up. No, I'm not. I was like, all right, whatever. It's just another one. At this time, it could be added to the list.
Right.
Very level-headed girl. I mean, in college, going to be a nurse. I mean, this is really the icing on the cake. I'll tell you how much a sense of humor God's got. I get a phone call, and I still hung out with this middle couple, but they would only hang out on the weekends. And still to this day, we call them the pawpaws because they had no kids, but they were married and had their own house, and they were in bed by 8 or 9 o'clock. Well, they called me like on a Wednesday night. It's like, hey, you want to come over and eat? And I knew then, I was like, oh, something's good supposed to come out of this. And so anyway, I go over and eat with them, hang out, and it's like a Tuesday, Wednesday night. It's middle of the week, and I was like, hey, I knew it was super odd. And so when I went to leave, Lacey's like, hey, Emily told me to tell you, hey. I was like, that's exactly what I needed. And so that was like maybe a Tuesday. Like the following, that Thursday, I carried her lunch. And it's been rocking and rolling. Silicaga girl. And I remember, if it's to go back, I'm going to tell you something, and then we're going to go back to that point again, too. I remember coming down the Childersburg-Feltville Road. She worked at Children's at 3 to 11. I'd meet her at Big Daddy's at 11 o'clock or about 12 o'clock when she got home. I got off work, my bad. And I had to be at Blue Bell at 4 o'clock in the morning. So that would give us about 2 hours. So I'd slow down a wee bit on the drinking just because I was having such a bad turnaround at night. But I remember meeting her at Big Daddy's, riding around Fayetteville, just hanging out, being two early 20s kids. But I remember riding around Fayetteville. Hey, roll the window down. You're from Sylacauga. You don't know what this air smells like. It's still a joke in our house to the day. And she's in Fayetteville 5 days a week taking the kids to school. And if we're ever in the car together, I'll roll the window down at some point and be like, hey, you remember what this air smells like? Just because you're from Sylacauga, she don't know what it smells like.
In this cold, still rolling the window down.
Not in this cold. This is a little bit different. We're going to keep the windows open. It's going to act like we can smell it.
Well, she must have liked the smell. That's all I can tell you.
Man, yes. So, obviously. So then we started the whole chatting, hanging out, dating, still am a train wreck and a half. I'm still trying to find my identity, still trying to figure out what I want to be, what I want to do. So now we're dating. Like I said, I told you, hey, if you get God, you give me this, hook me up with this. This is it. And I remember thinking about this in high school when we was all running around as the three couples. Man, if I could ever just have a chance to, that'd be the one that settled me down. And it's kind of funny how God lets you take that whole road to get around. And I look back and think, man, if I'd have just been obedient, this road would have been a lot shorter and a lot smoother and a lot easier. So he calls my bluff. Hey, here she is. So we start dating. Her daddy was working at a motor factory here in town. He got me a job out there making good money. I mean, good enough money to start a family on, buy a house and all that. And man, I've slowed down, but I haven't come out of overdrive yet. I still want to live that double life. And man, I really don't know what love is. And so we get engaged. We get married. And all that. I mean, that was.
Do you think at that moment, though, when you ask her to marry you and then when you're standing there at the aisle and she walks down, do you think at that moment that you honestly thought, hey, I can be done?
Yeah. I mean.
And that's what I thought your answer would be, because I think I think one of the greatest failures that we have, any of us, and this is not you, it's not me, I think we all, is, man, we know lying's wrong, but how many times do we lie to ourselves?
Oh, I can make myself be the...
Right. Like I'm just saying,
yes.
Like in your mind, like, like, hey, okay, she is the one, and this is what I want, this is who I want, this is, and we're going to live happily ever after.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we lie to ourselves, but I think deep down, we probably know, like, hey, I don't know that I can fully commit to this. Like, I don't know. It's going to look like this, but it's going to be okay. It's still going to be on my terms. It's going to be how I want to do it. She can have the guy at home, but it's probably going to be on my terms.
Yes. And that was it. I mean, I want to be your fiance, but I want to still live the party and the life that I want to live and still come home to you and be happy and all this. So man, it's you. So we rocking and rolling there. We're engaged, get married in like 2013. And I've slowed down, but I'm not. The night I was late to my own wedding because my dad and I run out of beer. and they're all in a tizzy because we're out at the gas station. And, I mean, we're minutes from walking out. And I was like, hey, I'm sitting at the gas station. I'll be back. So still trying to figure out how to get out of this double life that I'm living. And that was part of the toughest thing I ever, is to separate the two. And now I've got somebody at home to hold me accountable, because I've never been held accountable. And that was probably the best thing that ever happened was having somebody to just call me out on my BS. Hey, dude, you're telling me you're here, but you're actually there. What's the deal? Not that I don't trust you, not that I'm checking up on you. But I've never had that. I mean, like I said, I told you, walking you all the way up to this point, I mean, all the stuff through mid-age, 14, 15 years old. I told you all that. I mean, there's no accountability, I guess is the word I meant to say.
Women have a funny way of doing that.
It's wild how they can do that. So now I've got somebody at home that's still telling me that she's wants the godly man that she married. And I remember, I can still hear her today saying it. And it's not funny, but I was drunk the night we got married. Where was the godly man that you married?
Well, let me ask you this: did you kind of portray that to her? And I mean, did she, obviously she thought at some point in time there was something there for you to deceive her in that way?
Man, I have no clue where she got it from. I mean, obviously she's seen it in something. Maybe the way that I was holding the door open for her. I mean, I have no clue, dude. I feel like I was as far from a godly man as a godly man could get. Until I got in, like I said, until I got in hot water, and then I knew exactly who it was. But man, we're rocking and rolling. I mean, we're living life. I mean, we're no kids. Neither one of us has got kids. We're still being not really the life of the party, but we're still hanging out with some partying friends. I mean, she grew up in church. I mean, so she was kind of holding me accountable for it. And, come home. Going back to that double life. Come home one day, and there's a stack of papers sitting on the corner of the kitchen table. I knew exactly what they were. She's like, got a little bit of explaining to do, but there really ain't no explaining. You need to just tell me what's going on. And there's call logs. And I'm ashamed to tell you how thick the call logs were. And it was where I'd been want to live my life and do what I want to do and be a man and a husband to a very loving woman, and that I had I had no rights to be with her. She had no rights to be there. I drug her through the mud forwards and backwards. Was not the loving husband that she needed. And I mean, everything I'd done, she told me, she's like, I just want the godly man. I can't leave you. I can't leave you. I mean, I heard it so much, and then I come home and there's all those call logs.
Just women?
Yeah.
Is that just different ones? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Drake's very little. I mean, this may be 20s. I mean, he may be a year old.
So not only are you a husband at this point, but you're a dad too.
Yes, let me throw that in there too.
Little fella.
Yeah, yes. Still, yes, a dad. And now I got a son that's fixing to grow up and live, be the same chain. So I've got to break his chain somewhere. And I was like, I got it. I'll just leave them all. And the same roads that we rode, that I told you, I rode down the window and told her to smell the air. I said, God, I've run from you this long. Man, I said I wasn't going to do this. I said, God, I'll just end it. And I said, she'll know where I'm at. I'm not going to leave her a note. She knows our little parking spots where we hang out. I said, I'll just go pull up one of them, God. And I'll just go on and get out of everybody's way. And just be done with it all. And I remember, there wasn't no voice I've never heard. I can't tell you I heard, like, how he told me or heard his voice. But all I can remember, man, it's a coward way out. You watched your daddy try it twice. And now you're fixing to try it. I remember where I was sitting with a gun in my lap. And I was like, I'm done. This is it. And, man, like I said, I can't tell you whose voice it was, and it really wasn't a voice, but I remember it plain as day. He said, man, it's the coward way out. And now just looking back, it's like, God, I mean, all the stuff I've been through and went through and denied you, and here you are. Man, I don't bring nothing to the table. Drug her through the mud. Man, I've drug her through the mud. Tried that night, and I said, okay, can't do it. Go home. Well, I say go home. I went back to our house, still at home. And she's like, hey, you have no business here. So now I've got to go back to the home that I grew up in. That still is broken, as wrecked out as I'll get out. So like I said, I've prayed, asked for this. I didn't know what praying was at this time. I asked for this. God, if you just put her in my life, and he does it, and then I'm too self-centered, won't swallow my pride. So then, like I said, she kicks me out. I go to my mom and dad's. So this rock's on for about a week. So I got it. I'll go do it this time. Go back to a different spot. And like I said, I know I'm not going to leave her a note because I don't want nobody else to find it. But I can sleep on knowing that when I do it and the word starts spreading, because I knew I didn't want to do it where she'd be the first one to find me. But I knew that when the word got out, I said she would know I'd been in one of these two spots, because these are the spots that me and her went and hung out, and like I said, where I've told her where the air smelled the best. So I go back the second time, and I'll never forget the feeling. Man, it was that same, hey, you gonna be a coward like that? And fell asleep with the pistol in my lap, just dozed off, and got up, come back to, and I didn't really know what was going on. I was like, the pistols just sitting in my lap, loaded, ready, trucks idling, and so I went back to my mom and dad's, and I remember the first time praying, not as a kid. I remember praying as a kid, just let everybody in the house go to sleep, so it was the beating and the fighting and all that would go away. But I remember as a young, can't say man, because I still ain't figured out what a man is yet, a very prideful young man, I guess, what praying was about. I remember falling to my knees at the end of my bed at my mom and dad's house. And I was like, God, I'm 23, 24 years old. Man, if there's anything you can do, it won't to. I know I've wasted a lot of life. 24 years of it's gone. I said, but if there's anything you want to do, you done took the pistol out of my hands twice. I said, if you want to, I said, let's start today. And so I went. She wouldn't let me stay. Like I said, Drake's super young. I'm not spending a night away from him, but I'm staying at my mom and dad's and just going over there on every evening basis after work. And it's like set in the living room This ain't your house. You visit and go home. So what do you? I mean, I can't go get a motel room and get my son. I can't go. I'm trying to figure out what to do. And man, I remember every night I laid down, I was, God, hey, that ain't the way I want you out. Man, if I need to, if that's where you want me back in that house, let's go. And I went back over there a few days, and I was like, hey, let's go to church in the morning. And she's like, yeah, right. She's like, I know what you want. And man, we went to Russell Chapel Church, and right there, or late 14, right in there. And like I said, I knew I was way back in there, in the house, was going to church. And so we went the first Sunday, and I was like, okay, smelled like liquor, alcohol. I'd quit drinking just 1 or 2 o'clock and run over and pick them up in the morning, go to church. And then, man, it took 4 or 5 Sundays. I ain't never been to church. I only knew what made to go to church as a kid. So I really don't know what to do. And here I am trying to go to church just to get my wife back. And that was the best decision. I hate all the pregame up to this point, but man, that was the best decision as far as I've ever made. And I know you hear the saying, don't mess with that one because I'll hurt you. Man, she saved me from hell. There's no doubt in my mind that God put her in my life to save. Because like I said, she got to go back to, man, I remember hearing it multiple times, drunk. Hey, I want the godly man I married. I don't want this drunk guy that's just wanting to just do whatever. I want the godly man I married. And there's no doubt in my mind that he put her there for that reason. And I still screw up to the day, but now I've got somebody to hold me accountable in life, and don't let me fall on my BS just because it's the easy way out. And I guess that was the hardest pill to swallow because of pride. I had to get rid of that. And because like I said, this all the way up to this point, I could just BS my way through, and nobody held me accountable for nothing. And now when I do get held accountable, I want to go the cheap way out, the easy way out, the coward way out. And man, there's no doubt in my mind I would, if it was not for her, I would be here.
Well, I can't help but think, 2 things, and man, it doesn't matter how many times I hear you tell your story, it gets me. But I would say this, Cheston, and you said something a minute ago, you're like, man, I still don't know what a man is, and I would say you need to go look in the mirror. Because, man, it takes a big man to share it one time. It takes a big man to put it out there for the ability for all the world to hear. But, man, I think that at the end of the day, there's so much stuff. And what you said, I feel so many times. And there's a song called Broken Hallelujah. And I cannot hear that song without crying like a 10-year-old little girl, because I know I have nothing else to offer him. I don't know why in the world you would want me, because I have nothing to offer. I have nothing. I see what you've done. I hear what you've done. I believe what you've done for me, but I have nothing to offer you but a broken hallelujah. And, man, that just, at the end of the day, to hear that. But here's the thing I think we miss so many times is that's the point. That's all he wants. At the end of the day, that is all he wants. And, all those times that we talked about that, man, of going back and forth and promising him, hey, if you'll get me out of this, and then I'll do this. And he knows that, man, we're just lying to him through our teeth. And all he wants us to do is get to that place where, hey, this, I don't know why you would want this. I don't know what in the crap you're going to do with it, because there ain't nothing here to work with. But here it is. Here it is. Here it is. And I think the church, as the big church, man, we have messed it up for so long, is getting people to come and repeat some words after this man or come down here and man, all he wants is exactly what his word lays out. And that's just for us to be repentive of that and to get to a place where we realize we have nothing else to offer, but here it is. You can have it all. There's nothing here. And I was even thinking about this the other day. I've heard the story of the, Jesus and the disciples were there and at the tabernacle and a rich man came and put a bunch of money in the plate, and then a little poor widow come up and all she had was 2 bits or whatever it was numerical wise that she had, but all she had was 2 of them, and she put it in there, and then he asked the disciples who gave more, and at the end of the day, like, man, there's so many people that have taken that and preached, like, try to convict people and guilt people into giving money, and I don't necessarily believe that's what that's about. I believe it's the point that Jesus was showing, like, hey, that's all she had. Like it's not, has nothing to do with money. But it's just the fact that she was willing to give all she had. Like, here it is. Not part of it. And I even played that game for a long time. Like, hey, you can have, okay, well, I'll give you 2 hours on Sunday, an hour on Wednesday. I'll tell you what, we'll even step up the game and I'll give you another hour and we'll do a men's group. You know what I mean? But that's not what he desires. He just wants all of it. All friggin' of it. And, man, I there again, man, I think about how many times, man, his grace is so sufficient. Man, that's what his word says. He said, man, his grace is sufficient. And at the end of the day, I'm so friggin' thankful, because if it was by works, man, I would be the first one to bust hell wide open, because I can't get there on my own accord. And, man, just to hear your story and, man, how God had his hand on your life through it all. And all of us are that way. And I think we also use this statement, and I don't even, like, if somebody gets diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and they've gone to the doctor and they're like, hey, there's nothing else we can do for you. And so we have this saying that, like, hey, well, it's just in God's hands now. Well, the reality is all 3 of us sitting here at this table right now appear to be healthy and lively and whatever, but the reality is we're all in God's hands. And so, man, when we get to a point where we realize, like, hey, all he wants is just whatever it is we have to offer. And here's the other thing too. Like, I think so many times we read those stories in the Bible and we look at those guys like Moses and Ruth and Naomi and Noah and all those guys, all the disciples and Paul, and we're like, man, they must have been the superstars. And the reality is they weren't. They were just a bunch of broken hallelujahs. And man, it is so good. It is so good to see, man, what God brought you from, what God brought you through, and what he's doing in your life right now. And I can't stand one day, or I cannot wait one day to stand in heaven with you and see the people that come up to you and thank you for the impact you've had on their life. And I appreciate you, man. I do. And I appreciate you, man, having the balls, probably shouldn't say that, but having them to step up and tell it. And I hope too, man, at the end of the day, that there's men and women out there alike that maybe they feel like they're at their end of the rope and they have nothing to offer, but they hear your story and they're like, man, there's hope for me, because his grace is sufficient. It is sufficient.
That's it. And if we've got enough time, I'll just...
Oh, yeah, we got
another...
You got nowhere to be.
Another little side story is, like I said, we've talked about this. We're not in a rodeo family. And just telling this whole story has been in the back of my mind, and there's something else I think I need to get out there, because I remember the look on the kid's face. Man, like I said, he's probably 8, moving forward back to Drake and his junior rodeo. And, man, I was sitting at Cedar Creek Cowboy Church. AGR, he come up here and he's like, can we go stay? Can we go stay? Can we go stay? I was like, yes. So I take this horse trailer, and we live 6 minutes, 10 minutes at tops from the Cowboy Church. And we're going to stay and hang out. And, man, I'll never forget the one time I seen on his face what I felt like as a kid was he climbed off in the bucking chutes. And, man, the kids never liked horns. That's everybody in the AJR tell you, if it's got big horns, Drake's not down with it. Anyway, climbs off in there, and man, freaks slap out. So here I am trying to get a kid to enjoy rodeo, and goes back to, like I said, me and Emily's living a very simple life to pour everything into this kid junior rodeo, and he freaks out. So instead of beating him in the chute, I call him everything under the sun and tell him to go to the trailer. I'll be here in just a minute. And I remember opening that door of that horse trailer, and man, it still haunts me to today. After I got done with him, I remember the look on his face and the words that he told me. He said, "Daddy, I just want you out of the horse trailer." He said, "I don't ever want to be whooped like that again." And man, that was on City Creek Cowboy Church's grounds. And man, I remember that look being, as a grown man, getting on to my son, whooping my son. But I remember that look as being a kid. Just, "Hey, Daddy, will you just please leave Mama alone?" And I could just see Cheston Watkins all over that kid's face. And I remember falling to my knees in the pasture. I can go take you back to where my knees were at. And the kid, he told me, "Daddy, I just want you out of the trailer." I opened the door back up, and he's balled up. And he said, "Daddy, please." He's "All I want you to do is leave." And I remember hugging him and told him, I thought, man, if I ever act like that again, just remind me about this day right here. Just to say AJRA in Childersburg. I said, "Son, I never, ever want to make you feel like." I said, "That's how I felt as a kid." I said, "I seen it all over your face." I said, "I've got your back when nobody else does. I want to be the guy that's in your corner. I don't want to be the guy that you're scared of." And man, that was the one of the terriblest times as a dad in the rodeoing world, that I thought he had it, and I thought I was just about to cause him to piss it away because of my reaction.
Well, I would say this too, and man, there again, who knows? I just know God's going to do something absolutely amazing with this whole deal. So maybe the guy is out there listening that man hadn't walked down the road you've walked down. Maybe they had it all together. But here's the biggest problem I see with kids' sports, and it's not just rodeo. It's baseball, football. It's freaking tiddlywinks. I don't care what you're playing. There are so many parents, and I would say this, I guess, to the point of what we kind of led the podcast off with is, families and parents that didn't grow up rodeoing and didn't understand, but so many times I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but there's a thought process, even if it's unintentionally, even sometimes when we're guarded against it, it still comes out, of us trying to live through our kids. Like, we didn't get to do this, we didn't get to do this, so you're going to be the best, you're going to be the man, toughen up. And there again, I'm so anti-raising a bunch of snowflakes, don't get me wrong.
No doubt.
But at the same time, man, what benefit are we doing to freak a kid slam out? That'd be like taking a T-baller and say, "Hey, I want you to go hit batting practice with Jack." Well, Jack can throw it 65. You know what I mean? Like, so what, he gets hit with one ball, and I promise you that kid never wants to play baseball.
No, not at all.
Or let's let Jack line up across the line from him. Y'all can put pads on, and Jack's going to mow you.
Yes.
He's going to smoke your tail. And so I bet that kid never plays football again. And the same thing, I think, when it comes to rodeo is, man, there again, we don't want to raise a bunch of snowflakes, but man, you see it in the button busting.
Yes.
Man, how many parents, pay the $10 or whatever, or even if it's 20, whatever it is, and then their kid, they're all about it until the times to come in there, and then man, their kid is kicking and screaming and crying, and I get, let's make them tough. I get that 100%, but man, I think so many times the parents are trying to live vicariously through the kids.
I totally
and they
agree.
force that on them. And man, I promise you, I can tell you from experience, you just gonna wreck them out.
That's it.
You're just gonna wreck them out. And there again, if you don't believe me, back this deal up and listen to what Cheston just told you.
Right, and that was, and I never really tried to live through him, but that was the one time that I caught myself. Man, you're gonna do it. You put the rigging on and do it. I wouldn't do it. And the steer's 800 pounds and I'm 260. steer's 800 pounds and he's 85. I mean, come on, man. And that was the one time I told her, I'll never do it again. If you want to do it, we're going to do it because of you want to do it. I'm going to be in your corner supporting you. When you win, I'm supporting you. We didn't win. I've got your back when you win. I don't want it to be because Daddy told me to or Daddy forced me to. No. If you want to ride, it's because you want to ride, not because Mom and Daddy wanted you to. If you want to quit, you quit because Drake wanted to, not because Mom and Daddy made me quit. And I do see that a lot of dads, moms too. Can't leave moms out of it.
No.
Want to live through what little Johnny, little Susie's doing, and it's very easy to do. It's very easy to do.
No, it is. It's very easy. It is very, very easy to get caught up in that game. And like I said, that's not the singular to rodeo. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. You can go watch it. If you don't believe me, go just stop by any travel baseball league and pull up, and I promise you. And I also understand. I mean, man, there's a lot of money and time invested in your kids being able to do more than you got to do as a kid. So I get that, but at the same time, what's the point if we just wreck them out?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, they're not going to sign. There's not a college scout at any of these junior rodeos, just like at a travel ball game. Maybe when they get on up in age, yes, but at the Drake playing 8 or 9 year old baseball or rodeo, and I mean, we're not signing nothing tonight.
No. The PRCA nor Bobby Cox is watching your kid. I promise.
Not
at
at
10
all.
years old.
And all the time when I was little, Daddy was like, "Look, you can do whatever you want to do, even if it's on play piano." He said it it'd be every month he'd say that. And a year or two ago, I was like, "My God, do you want me to play the piano?" Because every single time, you can do whatever you want to do. Well, I'll go to your piano recitals if that's what you want to do. I was like, "You want to play?" Play, my goodness.
But I know you make fun of me about that, but my effort was just to try to prove to you, like I don't, man, and I'm thankful and just like, man, I'm thankful the boys love playing ball, and I'm thankful they love to rope, and man, I'm thankful they love to shoot ducks too, because we get to do it together. But at the end of the day, I was just trying to relay to him that, like, hey, if you don't desire to do anything that I desire to do, that's good, because I've lived my life. You know, I mean, I've lived my childhood, and I did what I wanted to do. My parents allowed me to play whatever I wanted to play or hunt whatever I wanted to hunt, and so I don't need to live through you. I don't need to live through you. But that goes back to knowing who you are, man. You know what I mean? And it took me to dang near 40 to figure out and realize that, man, it's not what I did. That whatever I was doing, whatever hobby I was into, is not what defined me. It's who God said I was. And there again, I mean, even in you, it took you to sitting in your truck twice with a pistol in your lap to get to that place. Even if you didn't realize it at that moment, that, man, it wasn't the women, it wasn't the alcohol, it wasn't the sports accolades. You were a child of God. And he loved you and sent his son to die for you, and that's who you were.
That's it.
It's kind of like Paul. It took him becoming blind to be able to see.
Yep.
No, well, man, that is so good. And I would say this. I had a conversation with a man the other day, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, I know I don't need you to lie to me. I want you to tell me what we could do to make the podcast better." And he said, "Well, the only thing I could say is make them a little longer." So we successfully have done that tonight.
About 50 minutes then.
Well, I will, man, I'm so thankful, Cheston. I'm thankful to call you my friend. I'm thankful that, man, just like the story you told, man, God continued to have his hand on you and your family. I'm thankful to call your family friend, and I'm thankful that, man, just like I said before, that even some of the crap that we've gone through, that, man, I can still sit here and watch you smile at me from my kitchen table, and I can smile at you, and I can call you my brother. And, man, I thank you for coming on and just being there again, being man enough to hopefully tell your story, to hopefully help somebody else.
That's it. Thank y'all for having me.
Well, dude, we've ended all these. I'm going to quit saying it. For a long time, I said we didn't know how we're going to end them, but we know we're going to end them now. And so, man, the same way we've ended all the rest of them, man, I'd just like to end it with you and just pray over you and your family, and we'll call it an evening. Father, I just come to you, Lord. I thank you, man. I thank you so much for this deal. God, I have no idea if it, like Jack said before we started, man, if it's just one. Father, I pray that, man, you could use the life and the journey that Cheston's been down to help somebody else. So, Father, I just pray that, man, whoever listens to this, man, that they can, man, listen to what Cheston shared, listen to how it is that you were there the whole time. God, even when he desired not to have anything to do with you, God, even when he desired to use you as a genie in a bottle or a get out of jail free card, God, that you were there the whole time. God, that you had a purpose and a plan, because that's what your word says. Your word says that, man, you had a purpose for Cheston's life when you knitted him together in his mother's womb. God, that you had designed him with a purpose, and God, you guarded and protected him, even though he used the free will that we all have to run from you and to do everything in his power to try to fill the hole that only you can fill. But yet, God, you never left him nor abandoned him, just like your word says. So, Father, I just thank you for Cheston. I thank you for Emily. And, God, I thank you so much for their family. God, I thank you for Drake and Sadie. And Father, I just pray, Lord, that you would bless their family. God, that you would knit them together tighter than they've ever been. God, that, man, that they would become one, truly as your word says. And God, not just as a couple, but as a family, Lord, that they could bring honor and glory to you through everything that they do. Father, I pray that, man, people could look at them and listen to them and let them tell their story of you, the grace and the mercy that you've shown them, God, and realize that that is a free gift that you offer every single one of us. Father, I love you so much. I praise you and I ask these things in your most precious name. Amen.